You can have a small altar at your desk or, your personal area within your cell. Obviously, that space in and of itself is limited, so you're going to have to keep your items limited. And when I say this, I'm talking about more so of an ancestor altar. These devices are kept more so in the diaspora. This is not a part of standard IFA practice, but I wanted to answer this question even so because a lot of people do still keep ancestor altars, especially us in the diaspora, who came through like traditions other than strict Isheshe or what have you. So it is a commonality, and sometimes people just want to keep this either way. So you can do a makeshift type of altar or what have you, ancestor altar. It wouldn't be an Orisha altar, not an authentic Orisha altar. However, it can't contain any contraband. So anything that is considered to be against policy, you definitely want to avoid that. Anything that is altered is not going to be able to go on your altar, right? If you want to, you can substitute things if it is allowable for you to do so. You can utilize certain like paper-based symbols or representation of things that are allowed within the facility. So you may want to draw some things, or you can use paper in a way that is compliant, right? And make symbols or what have you out of that. That is allowable to keep on an altar, something like that, like an ancestor altar or what have you. Or inmates allowed to keep journals, notebooks, prayer dream books, Odu notes, things like that. Absolutely, the facility allows for these things as long as it is on regulated, right, materials that are allowed to be within the facility. You can probably get some of those things right there in the commissary. So now we're going to transition into ritual practice, daily observances. This is where the major complication comes in at, because you cannot have Orisha pots and things like that, right? So what are you allowed to do? What can inmates do from this particular perspective as far as honoring Ifa on a day-to-day basis? So you can still pray out loud or internally. It's probably going to be more ideal to pray internally if you're in an environment or in a space where you don't have full-on privacy, which unfortunately is very common in American-based prison environments. Other systems are completely different, right? You can still recite your Odu verses and things like that, even so in Yoruba. And that's even another thing I forgot to say when I was talking about the books and stuff like that. So you probably won't be able to receive books that are written in the Yoruba language if you speak, read, and write, you're fluent in written Yoruba. You probably won't be able to receive books in that language unless there is somebody at that particular facility who can read it and ensure that it is good, which they probably won't do, right? So you would want to make sure that you're getting things that are in the English language. Even so, Spanish, I'm pretty sure they allow that because it is a well recognized. Is it a second language, like officially in the U.S.? I'm not sure about this. Some of you all who speak Spanish or know about that, please let me know. Of course, English is the official language, the lingua franca, but I think that Spanish is like an officially recognized spoken language, written language in the U.S., right? So I think that you should be able to get those particular, you can get resources or what have you, definitely in the English language, potentially in the Spanish language, but you definitely want to check with your particular facility to make sure that that's okay, because you don't want to spend money, time, energy, or resources getting things, purchasing, I should say, or having somebody send you things that you won't be able to actually receive. Okay. You, as I said before, you're not going to be able to feed Orishas because you won't have an Orisha pot. It is pointless to go, let me say this, according to Isheshe, it is pointless to go to just leave offerings, anywhere, which like you really don't have the capacity to do that. Because in Isheshe, you're feeding an Orisha pot. In Isheshe practice in Nigeria, and I'm emphasizing this because I do know that some people practice Lukumi and Santeria, and you guys do leave offerings out in nature. I'm not condemning that practice. I'm just stating that this is what is done in the Isheshe tradition in Yoruba land, Nigeria, whereby you are going to utilize pots, icons, and things like that in order to feed the Orishas with. Because of that, you won't be able to do that when incarcerated. Somebody can do it on your behalf. Can inmates practice ancestor veneration? If so, how? So we kind of got to this before. Yes, you can absolutely practice ancestor veneration, especially, you just said with Haitian, because I practice Haitian voodoo too. So especially with a lot of the traditions, like the diaspora practice of the voodoo and hoodoo and Gula Geechee and all of these types of practices, ancestor veneration, like just communing with your ancestors, right? Reflecting quietly, even so having like ancestral photos and things like that, paper symbols, things like that are allowable. You can absolutely utilize those devices and work through ancestor veneration in that way, according to the Ifa. Well, again, that's not Ifa per se, but you can still venerate your ancestors in those ways, right? Authentic Ifa-based shrine-like setups, that's a no-no. Again, like, you got a lot of materials there. You would even have to feed that device. Even so, that's another nuance that I didn't even put on here. But that's a whole another caveat in and of itself, like to be able to feed the Orisha pot. So if there's an Egungun shrine or what have you, you would have to have the acceptable sacrifices and offerings, or even the offerings if you're not doing sacrifices, which, like, you would have to be able to get that on a regular basis, even if you could feed them, which you cannot. You cannot have them there, right? But even if you could, that would present a new challenge in and of itself, is to have the right materials to always feed your icons with, right? Another question was about, can you wear like the white clothing and head coverings and things like that? Any other type of ritual garments that are used in observation? I mean, obviously, the answer is going to be no to that. Prisoners are required to maintain uniformity, which means that they have to wear the standard uniforms that are set forth for you in that facility. That being said, it could potentially be white or another color that is excuse me, white or another color that is standardized at whatever facility that you are at, which would be beautiful, right? Because white is it's okay color for everybody to wear. The challenge in this notion with colors in general is if a color is taboo for you, because that could be a reality. You may be at a facility where you have to every single day wear a uniform, a prison uniform. That is something that's taboo for you to wear. And you would have to be able to circumvent that through Ebo and other sacrifices and other processes.